All right, welcome into Big Hitters Only. Thursday, February 19th, we're going to have a one guest episode. Brendan Marks from The Athletic. I wanted to get this episode in, heading to Utah on Saturday. So I wanted to get this one in before the weekend. Brendan, what's up, man?
Not too much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, second time on the podcast.
Look
Saw
at
you
that.
at State. I sent you a list of things to talk about. Interesting time to be in the triangle for college basketball. State beats Carolina. Carolina's got two major injuries. Duke's kind of rolling after losing to Carolina. Obviously want to touch on UNC first and some Hubert stuff. But the scene at the Lenny, like what do you make of that game? I mean, UNC's down their two best players. Couldn't do anything. State looks good. What does it mean for each team, from your perspective?
Yeah, I think, for Carolina, obviously, you were disadvantaged, shorthanded coming in. I think it would have been a surprise if Carolina had won that game down its two best players. I mean, Caleb Wilson and Henri Veesaar are accounting for like 45% of Carolina's scoring and rebounding. And they have been unquestionably their two best players all year long. Really only the two guys that you could count on all year. And I think you saw that at NC State. There have been questions all year, and Hubert Davis has toyed with the rotation. The backcourt it's not a backcourt that I think Carolina fans are accustomed to seeing. And that was evidenced by their inability to hit water from a boat. Just absolutely, the shooting has continued to be a problem for Carolina. And then for NC State, like, it's a good win. After two back-to-back losses, one of them, I don't know which one's more painful if you're a State fan. You got a 40-point blowout at Louisville, and then you've got to win at home against Miami, and you choke it away. You give 8 points up in the last 53 seconds. So, as Will Wade said, State just needed a win. This one's going to count in the positive for their tournament resume. They're going to be a tournament team. But I think if you're a State fan, it's hard to read too much into it.
So, all right, so what do you think? The Veesaar injury seems a little more serious than maybe originally expected, right? I don't know what you're hearing, what other people are hearing, but by all accounts, he's not practicing yet. And, people think it's the back of the ankle, maybe an Achilles injury. You got to be very careful with those. You see all the Achilles things that happen across NFL and NBA. It can completely ruin people's careers. Certainly don't want that to happen. So, the stats of UNC, like, Caleb may come back against Duke. He's out there shooting. He's tweeting. He's retweeting people. Veesaar is kind of unknown. I guess we'll get a better idea on Friday. So what do you think about UNC's just roster and health for the next 4 or 5 games until the ACC tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm breaking news when I say that I don't really see this Carolina team going much of anywhere in the ACC or NCAA tournament if those two guys are not back, and not back at full strength, right? As far as Caleb is concerned, Kylan Boswell at Illinois just had a similar injury, was out for about a month. Personally, I mean, I broke my hand a couple of years ago, had the boxer's fracture. I would be surprised if Caleb was back for Duke, especially considering the way the ACC looks right now. What does Carolina have to play for in that game? Not only is it not going to be, at least as of today, a top 4 seed in the ACC, Duke is on pace to potentially win the league by multiple games. So it's not like you're even potentially playing spoiler there. So if you're Caleb Wilson, do you maybe just take those extra 4 or 5 days, get fully good to go before the ACCs? I feel like he will be back at some point, even if it is just the NCAA tournament. But, I think back to the situation with Baylor a couple of years ago, going into the tournament. They had lost a couple of games in early February when they had all those injuries. It took them about a month to get back to normal. So it's going to take Caleb Wilson and Henri Veesaar some time once they get back to be at the level they were at. So unfortunately, these are the kind of injuries that seriously inhibit the likelihood that Carolina is going to make an ACC tournament run. I still think if you get those two guys back, you can be a second weekend tournament team. But between their status and what we have seen from the backcourt, both with and without them, I would be surprised if Carolina made a deep postseason run with this roster.
Yeah, there's a little buzzing going on. I don't know if it's on my side or your side, but it's very subtle. Do you hear that at all?
Not really.
Okay. Well, we apologize. So I guess the question is, will Caleb come back? I think he wants to. But I mean, look, there's bigger things to play for than, the round of 32 or a potential Friday win in the ACC tournament. I think there's more risk for Veesaar, and it'd be great to have a doctor in here that could break down both these injuries. But like, man, I mean, if he has any issue where he could hurt it more, which I think is probably more of the risk with something like the Achilles, where I know he could tweak it more and be out if he wants to go to the NBA, the combine, that's around the corner as well. So he's got to think about his future. I think he is kind of a borderline guy where he could come back next year to UNC or somewhere else and make a lot of money rather than being a second round pick. I mean, he is lacking some physicality. I think that it's going to get exposed to the next level.
If you talk to NBA people right now, I'd be surprised if Henri Veesaar's back. I would be honestly, I'd be shocked. I mean,
the 3-point shot has been very impressive this year, and that's what's jumped off the screen to me as a NBA guy. But dude, I think he gets rocked as a rebounder.
But when you are playing at the next level, what do you need? You need guys who can spread the floor. You need guys who can move. And he doesn't have the best foot speed, but he's mobile and he's 7 feet tall.
Like, a serviceable backup center in the NBA.
And is that going to change if he comes back for another year? I mean, I again, at this point, based on the NBA interest I've heard from him, I would be very surprised if he's back in college next year. I think the bigger question is, could Carolina even afford for someone like him to come back? And I know we'll get into future roster stuff and all of that, but it'll be fascinating to see what this roster looks like next year, given what it should be expected to lose after this season.
Yeah. All right. So we talk about a lot of this on the CBS Sports side of things. I'm doing a lot of bracketology with David Cobb, and like, how does the committee judge this Carolina team heading into the tournament? They're likely going to make it. I mean, but they could lose the next 5 games, Brennan. I mean,
they're still going to make it. They're going to make the tournament. Okay.
All right. So Syracuse is like their easiest game, but it's on the road, and that's going to be likely without Veesaar and Wilson. Then it's a combination of Virginia Tech, Clemson, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Clemson at home, Duke on the road. 5 games remaining. I mean, dude, they could lose out. They could go 1-4. I mean, 1-4 might be the most likely scenario. Clemson doesn't look as great. You watch more of this than I do. Virginia Tech's probably beatable if you have one of those guys back. But you're looking at 2-3 to close out, 3-2, 1-4, that range. So how does the committee view this team? And then also wins the ACC tournament. Like, what do you think they would do? Let's say Wilson plays against Duke and Veesaar plays against Duke, and you only get them against Duke in the ACC tournament.
Then the committee will not really hurt UNC in the big picture for losses. If both of those guys are back by the regular season finale or even by the ACC tournament, then they're not going to be dinged substantially in the eyes of the committee.
They're going to treat them like that's the full strength
as if they're whole. Now, what it means is they're probably going to be underseeded relative to having a full team. But that's somebody else's problem. They are in no jeopardy of missing the field because the wins against Kansas continue to get better. The win against Kentucky continues to get better. The win against Duke, especially if Duke beats Michigan this weekend, there is no situation I can envision in which Carolina does not make the tournament, even if they lose out and lose their first game in the ACC tournament. But obviously, you want to get those guys back. That's the most important thing. Now, if one or both of them is not back by the tournament. We saw this, I think we saw this last year. We've seen this the past couple of years where a guy has sort of a nebulous injury status going into the tournament. In that case, the committee does take that into account because it's a fundamentally different team. Like Texas Tech, for example, losing JT Toppin for the year. I mean, that's like a singular seed line injury to me, irregardless of the results that happen without him. So I ultimately think they'll be back. I don't think they're going to get dinged too bad. And what is going to result in Carolina being underseeded, then it's Carolina. Can they take advantage of that?
Yeah. Okay. I'm a little worried about Veesaar, man. I mean, and I'm not sure it benefits him to risk anything. He's got to be 100%. I think there's the cloudiness around it is what, like, there's no update. There's nothing, like, at least with Caleb, there's been some, like, all right, Inside Carolina reported 3 to 4 weeks. You hear about the broken hand stuff. You see him out there shooting. I mean, Veesaar wasn't even moving at State, so we'll see. All right, let's look to the future. Hubert Davis. We knew this was a big season. I mean, group chats across the Carolinas. This is a huge season for Hubert. And look, huge wins. Kentucky, Kansas, Virginia, Duke, ripping off a bunch in the ACC. Then the losses, SMU, struggling against Wake, Florida State, losing to Cal, losing to State, losing to Stanford. Um, a good roster, not still some misses in the transfer portal, like some glaring misses, which allows them not to get to like that top 10 status. Still kind of like not a bubble team, but like not to the standard of UNC. So we don't know what's going to happen with the rest of the season, but like, where do you think the status of Hubert Davis is right now on February 19th with a lot of unknowns now? I mean, the injuries might help him, right? The injuries might help him.
Yeah, I've heard this from a couple of people. And it's funny you mentioned my group chat. I have one group chat. I mean, I went to Carolina, so I have a group chat of a bunch of my buddies from college, and
This
they
is the fantasy football league.
yeah, and they temporarily changed the name of the group chat to FHD Fire Hubert Davis after the loss to.
Who's the loudest guy in there?
There's a lot. There's a lot of chatter. Here's what I think. I think that when you look at Carolina from a 30,000 foot level, they have been ranked in the top 15, 20 all year. They've been ranked all year, right? Which is not something that we said last year. It's not something that we said the second year. So that's progress. Like, that is the Carolina standard, is being ranked all year. You even look at like late tenure Roy, 2019, they were top 5 most of the year, but I think about like 16 and 17 and 15, like those were mid-teen sort of teams. So I don't think that, like, I think they've met expectations in that regard. The big wins are huge. The Duke win especially, those move the needle. The Duke win as much as anything for the emotional value of it. However, you look at the roster, and I think, a lot of people said this about Kentucky earlier in the year. You spent $22 million on that.
Yeah.
And Kentucky's obviously turned it around. I think you look at Carolina, it's been reported $14 million. To my understanding, it's higher than that. It's more like $16 million. Is this a $16 million roster? And you look at, especially when Caleb and Henri were healthy, you look at the bench that Carolina had, and its bench was more expensive than some full ACC payrolls.
With Kyan Evans,
Jaron
Stevenson,
Stevenson. So that like the money allowed Hubert Davis to have a larger margin of error, and he proved to have needed some of that margin for error. But I don't think you can call the season anything but successful so far. The injuries, like if Carolina loses, if they go 1-4 and lose the first ACC tournament game and fail out in the round of 32, nobody's going to be happy. But I think the injuries do, like you said, Ross, provide some cover there. To me, I would find it surprising if North Carolina moved on from Hubert Davis at the end of this year. I think he's done enough to keep the job. I think it's setting up for next year to be very pivotal. Because next year, and I know we said that this year, but next year is a new landscape with the revenue sharing. This year's kind of the money dump year. You had the joint crossover from, you had all the funds previously, pre-house settlement. You also had the revenue sharing money. That's why the rosters got to be so expensive. They're not going to be that expensive next year. You're not going to have the margin for error that you had last year. And, big recruiting win for Hubert Davis the other day, getting Dylan Mingo. You've got 2 top 25 recruits coming in. Those are expensive commitments. And so is Hubert Davis going to have the resources to build this kind of roster and to have this margin of error again? I don't think so. So next year, I think, is when we'll really learn. I'd be surprised if there's movement after this year.
So my philosophy, it's hard to do this, but like if you know he's not the guy, like you got to cut bait when you know he's not the guy. You see it in football a lot. Honestly, you probably should have cut bait with Belichick after last year. You're realizing it's not working with Lombardi and Belichick. It's just too expensive to do that because you're losing $20 million of his salary and all the assistant coaches and stuff. But like you're just pushing it down the road. And you're going to be another year behind when you do fire him. So if you know he's not the guy, then you cut bait. Now with Hubert's different because he's had some success. Like the first year, the Final Four run, and then the year with the really good year with the Cormac Ryan, Harrison year. That was a great team. It was the number 1 seed. Lost to Alabama in the round 32, Sweet 16, second weekend. Yeah.
And Alabama made the Final Four.
Yeah. A really good Alabama team. So you've seen, and then this year, they look great against Virginia, Kentucky, Kansas, Duke. They've had those signature wins where they've looked good. They just haven't been able to put it all together, and they haven't been able to put it together across multiple weeks and consistent. It's just like they look horrible at times. The West Coast road trip was just embarrassing. But yeah, I think next year's gonna be tough, man. I think people are getting excited about this Mingo guy. I don't think he's that good. I think they overpaid for him. I think your face shows. I know a lot more because I'm behind the scenes with with the recruiting stuff. He's going to drop in the rankings. He's been injured too. I don't think it's like crazy. He's going to drop in the rankings. He just hadn't played, so he's going to drop. He can't really shoot. They can't. I don't think they're going to ask him to start. They can't ask him to start. UNC will be horrible if Mingo starts next year, which means they're going to have to go get a very expensive alpha scorer, wing shooter to pair with Derek Dixon. Derek Dixon, I mean, Derek's kind of average.
I think he's a good player. I think he can be a starting caliber ACC guard.
Yeah, with pieces around him that can. I mean, I don't think Derek Dixon's ever going to lead a top seed in scoring. You know, he's going to be your 10 points and 5 assists guy. You know, this team could really use an Elliot Cadeau, a creator.
Or Cade Tyson.
Yeah, well, who knows? I know there's no shots to go around, but like Elliot Cadeau on this team would be awesome because he could just throw lobs to Veesaar and Caleb Wilson all game and be that perimeter creator they kind of lack. Anyway, but I don't know, man. I mean, I think a lot of people are kind of done with Hubert Davis, and it's tough because the Carolina way thing with a lot of decision makers and money people goes far. But then I think a lot of money people are kind of over that and are sick of like this mediocrity and the standard. I tell some of my friends I have arguments with this about, it's like, dude, the standard is not 22 wins and a number 6 seed or 25 wins and a 6 seed. Like the standard's like number 1 seed, number 2 seed, like 5 losses max. Like that's the Roy Williams standard. And it fell off in his last couple of games. So it's just like, I mean, how many more chances do they have? I don't think, I mean, can he land the transfers they need next year to get done? Like he missed this year. Kyan Williams was like his 5th or 6th choice, right?
I mean, look, Henri Veesaar was a fantastic.
Yeah, they got done.
Land. And he's shown that he's been able to identify those guys. I mean, Harrison Ingram was a great one. Cormac Ryan was a great one. I think Jaron Stevenson, did they overpay for him? Maybe, but when you had the resources they did, you can afford to. I think he's been a good player. Bogovats has gotten better as the season has gone on. Like,
I mean, I almost think Bogovats a little bit of a miss though, man. I don't know how much they paid him, but like, he's been okay. But didn't they kind of count on him to be like almost be the second leading scorer of this team? I don't know. What do you think? I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think it is fair to criticize Hubert Davis for not hitting on some transfers that you invested a lot of money in, but like you look across the country, I don't think there's a single coach that's gone 100% on.
Yeah,
so it's a double-edged sword there. The thing to me that I think, and this is something that other people, agents and NBA folks will point out, is there has been a history with Dawson Garcia, with Cade Tyson, with Elliot Cadeau, players leaving North Carolina and getting better, and I do think that sort of corroborates some of the criticism that you sometimes hear around the program about the development, about the caliber of the staff. Are players coming and actually getting better here? And for every example, like a Cade Tyson and Elliot Cadeau who leave and get better, there are the RJ Davises who become All-Americans. And there are the Armando Baycots who his last year became a really good defender. Harrison Ingram became an NBA draft pick. But I do think that is something that people in the industry look at and go, okay, well, he had these guys. And like you said, Ross, Carolina could use an Elliot Cadeau right now. They could use a Cade Tyson, a floor-stretching wing right now. Like, that's one of their biggest holes. And he was on a cost-controlled contract. So I think people across the industry look at that and say, what's going on here?
What do you mean cost-controlled contract?
As far as, like, below market rate for what a starter costs today.
Cade Tyson was?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, and again, he's having a great year this year. I mean, he's leading Minnesota in scoring. They've had some really big upset wins. He's been terrific in big moments. That is something that people across the industry look at and go, why are players leaving North Carolina getting better? And I think that is a fair question.
Yeah, Cade Tyson seems weird, man. It's like, is he getting way more opportunities at Minnesota that's allowing him to show that? So did Hubert Davis just not use him right and not give him the opportunity? And the roster construction that year was so weird with the two really small guards.
It was
very ball dominant guards that required a lot of shots to produce. Ian Jackson's he's not been that great, right?
No, he hasn't.
Starting.
He's struggled a little bit, but as far as the overall Hubert thing is concerned, going back to that group chat I referenced before, somebody brought this up to me, and I have thought about it sometimes. Like, what Hubert did that first year beating Duke in K's last game, beating Duke in the Final Four, has Hubert Davis already accomplished the things that he's always going to be known for?
Yeah.
At UNC. And realistically, in my eyes, there's only one thing he can do still that would top those, which is win a national championship. So if you believe Hubert Davis can win a national championship, as he showed 2 years ago that he maybe could, as he showed the first year he maybe could, then you probably are not done with him. But if you are in that group where, hey, we're really grateful for what you did, but that might be the peak, then I understand the sentiment you're describing, Ross, where a lot of people are.
Do you think he is a good enough, he's shown it in his first year, but a good enough in-game coach to win 6 straight games with that roster in 22 was decent, but it wasn't incredible. They rode those 5 players all the way, but is he a good enough in-game coach to win 6 games straight? Yeah,
I think he is. I think his bigger problem has been roster construction.
Yeah, you've been big on his in-game coaching more than other people, I think.
If you across the industry, people look at him as a good offensive coach. They like his sets, but again, it's very personnel driven. He has to have the personnel. He's not dissimilar from Roy in that regard. If Roy didn't have the 2 bigs and the pass first point guard, how did the Carolina secondary break look?
Yeah, this is anything across any sport. You have to have the players.
Right. So, but I just think Hubert has struggled more as a roster constructor, maybe talent identifier. No, he's identified talent well. Just actually landing it. The roster construction piece, I think, is the biggest criticism that I would have of him, is that hasn't been consistent enough. And last year, for example, the pieces didn't work, and throughout the course of the year, he finally got to a front court that was competent. Right? The first year, when Dawson Garcia was gone, he finally leans on these guys. They go on the run. He's shown an ability to adapt to his pieces and be versatile in that way. But obviously, you would rather it not take until February for that to happen.
Yeah. Real quick, guys, check out Roback.com. New promo code Big Hitters 20. I almost forgot the promo code. Big Hitters 20 at checkout. First time buyers, get your Roback stuff. It's a really good promo code that helps us pay for our producer and editor behind the scene. Big Hitters 20. A couple more things. We'll get Britton out of here. Actually, let me see the size of your wedding band. I'm doing wedding band shopping right now. What's the width you have? Do you know the width on that? You remember?
I don't. I got
pretty significant width there, I think.
Yeah, I think it's kind of standard.
Yeah.
It's not huge, but it's definitely not tiny. It's got some heft. I can bang it on a table.
Yeah. It looks like the more modern width. All right, cool. Yeah. All right, so would you consider? I'll have a little rapid fire here. Would you consider Kyan Evans a miss?
Yes.
Would you consider Jonathan Powell a miss?
No.
Okay. And we talk about Jaren Stevenson. I think maybe he's been good, but maybe expected a little bit more out of him. What's going on with Isaiah Dennis? See guys just transfers out because he's not playing. He's pissed. He's injured.
There were other schools that basically had him already in the door, and North Carolina, those resources, they talk.
Yeah.
I don't know that those resources are going to be there next year. I don't know that the opportunity is going to be there next year. He's been injured too, so it's kind of hard to judge. But I would not say that as of today I consider him a significant piece for the future.
Yeah, I think he was committing to Wake Forest, and just UNC came in with a bigger check. What are the other transfers we got?
And Henri's a slam dunk.
Henri's a slam dunk. I gotta go through the roster here.
And Henri was his first one. People forget that. People, lambast Hubert for not getting a big last year. The first thing he did in the transfer portal this year. Henri was one of the first transfers to commit anywhere in the country.
Yeah, well, everyone's waiting for it because it was the interest was so heavy so early. James Brown's been entered. Jaden Young, Kyan Evans.
I actually think relative to expectations, that one's been a hit.
Yeah, he had that run when he started. What do you think happens with Bogovac next year? Just comes back?
It's a fascinating question. He's obviously got another year of eligibility. I would say that as of this point, yeah. I can tell you from just having through the grapevine, other schools would be interested in him if he were interested in going elsewhere.
Yeah.
But if Carolina can retain him, again, I think he's shown development through the course of the year. He's gotten better. Do you think he can be a 40% three-point shooter and capable defender for a team that you think can win the ACC? If you think he can, bring him back. If not, then there are going to be offers elsewhere if he decides to enter the portal.
Yeah, it'd be good to see him in a second year, kind of like development. You'd love to see players come back and get a little bit better there next year. All right, is Hubert Davis UNC's coach next year?
Yes, he is.
Okay. How good is this Duke team? You're a big Duke guy.
Since over the last 5 years, they have consistently been the better program. So I'm going to allocate time there. Like last year, Duke was one of the best teams of all time.
Oh yeah, I'm not getting on you for covering them. I'm saying how good is this team? Like I don't think they're as good as last year.
No,
but they're winning. Like it just seems like they are a little more dominant. Last year's team was very dominant too.
Cam Boozer is even better than I thought he'd be. He's going to win the Wooden Award. For Duke to have back-to-back Wooden Award winners as freshmen is crazy. For any school to do it is crazy. The rest of their pieces I don't think have maybe lived up to some of the billing. Isaiah Evans has been really good. He's taken strides. But they have question marks in the backcourt too. Like Caleb Foster has had some really, really good games. Like he basically won them the Arkansas game, and then he's had others where he's no-showed. Dame Sarr has developed, but Nick Hamenia has not really. Patrick Ngongba has been really good at times, but has been injured, has been in foul trouble, as you saw during the Carolina game. I think they're good enough to make the Final Four, but I think we're going to learn a lot this weekend seeing them compared to Michigan. I'm expecting Michigan to win that game, possibly by multiple possessions. I think, I consider Duke to be a title contender, but not a front runner, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think they're good enough to get there. I'm not sure they have the pieces to compete with the top teams. All right, Brendan, 3:30 got you here, out on time. Appreciate your time. Rate, review, subscribe. Check out Rowback Big Hitters 20. Appreciate your time, Brendan Marks. What's your Twitter?
@Brendan on Marks.
All right, awesome.